How's it going? Welcome back, my wise ones, to a fantastic video today, because today I just want to highlight a game that is coming out very shortly, and this game is called Fatekeeper. And I just thought this looks so interesting, and not many people are talking about it, and I think the Fatekeeper reviews are about to shock everybody. It's going to blow people away, because this is the kind of dark fantasy game, personally, that I've been wanting for a very long time. Now, this is kind of a weird blend of Tide combat. If you've played, Vermintide or Darktide, the Warhammer game, you'll probably know how satisfying melee combat is in those games. Very weighty, very deliberate, slow, it's all around physics and all that kind of stuff. And this game looks to capture that kind of same combat feel, but in a much more slower RPG format. You can actually coat your blade with different tonics and stuff like that. The enemy types and the just art style of this game is something that appeals to me massively.
Impressive. Very nice.
Now, the interesting thing about Fatekeeper, and the reason I wanted to make this video, is because this is basically by a new development team to some degree, and it is being published by THQ Nordic, which is obviously a big publisher. So it's quite interesting. They obviously know that these people are cooking.
Let him cook! Let him cook now! Let him cook! I said let him!
Goddamn right.
So I hope you like the video, my wise one. Subscribe if you're into early access coverage, reviews, and philosophical content. You're in the right place. Check out the music on Spotify and support me in any way that you can. It means absolutely everything to me. And simply subscribing or liking the video is already greatly appreciated, and just interacting with you and seeing the wise ones in the comments always makes me so much more happy. Now, this is not going to be an open world game. It's very much of a kind of linear game where you progress through a story and like different hub areas. It seems like there is going to be some side exploration, but it's kind of going for that arena kind of combat gameplay. And what I mean is, if you've ever played another amazing AA game, kind of indie game as well, Witchfire, which most people probably don't know about, but it kind of reminds me of that similar type of game where the quality is actually amazing, but it's going to be a long time before this game actually gets fleshed out. But what is here looks to be very interesting. The graphics are beautiful, of course, but that's not really the main thing that makes me excited about this game. It's the weighty combat, the fact that you can have different player builds, you can spec into magic, you can become a tank if you want, or you can just like become the Witcher and spec into, kind of poisons and stuff like that for dealing extra damage. So this is going to be releasing into early access, and I'm kind of sick of early access, I've got to be honest. It is an excuse for a lot of developers to just kind of release a half-finished product, kind of take the money and just kind of sit back and just slowly update it. But developers that actually use early access correctly, then it can actually be a very good experience, because it makes the game, much better, because it's getting player feedback, and it actually develops and evolves with real people playing it. A lot of developers reach out to me for playtesting, and honestly, I don't really like to do it at times. It depends on the project or whatever. But, what they really need is good feedback. And they don't just use this as an excuse to secure extra money, secure that bag, and then not really listen to feedback. Then, of course, it's very pointless. So we're just going to have to wait and see what type of early access this is. There is going to be some parkour, some platforming in this game, as well as you kind of navigate the levels. There's going to be some puzzles, I assume, as well. It looks like there's going to be some puzzles and stuff like that. But this is a weighty, slow, deliberate game. It kind of reminds me of that VR game Blade and Sorcery, except obviously not in VR. There's going to be dismemberment. You can't take that many hits yourself, and there's going to be parries and stuff like that as well, which opens enemies up for attacks and finishes. The brutal finishes look so good here. I'm just a sucker, I've got to be honest, for slow, deliberate combat. That's why I love games like Dark Souls 2, for example. I like the more weighty, slow animations that you have to actually commit to, and this exactly appeals to me because of that. And the equipment menu and how it all kind of works does kind of look to be that kind of more hardcore RPG kind of format system where equipment and stats and your resources actually do matter in the gameplay itself. And I really do like that. Also, the story looks like it's going to have some narrative elements, like you have a talking rat companion.
Impressive. Very nice.
So as you can see here, this is going to be your kind of main companion throughout the game by the looks of it, and he's going to be your guide, kind of, you know, give you hints of the story, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a heavy cinematic focused experience like God of War or anything like that. And honestly, I like that a lot more. I like it when the player actually has to think about what's going on, piece together things from environmental storytelling. That's what makes gaming special, is that storytelling design philosophy. And you know, that way you can actually paint different ideas and themes yourself, because sometimes it's better to have your imagination fill in the gaps than games directly tell you what's going on. That way they can actually be a deeper experience, in my opinion. It just depends on what kind of story they're going for, but I do like the aesthetic, the atmosphere that they're going for so far.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Harkens back to a simpler time in RPG games, when actually, when I say simpler, I mean better and actually more complicated. When, you know, you actually have to interact with the environment, you can kick enemies, physics actually matter. Now you can probably expect around 10 hours of gameplay within the early access, so it doesn't sound like they're offering much. That's why it's kind of coming out as a sleeper hit, I think, you know, more kind of just shadow dropped, and then it's gonna obviously gather an interest and hopefully people will just back it and support it more. But there are gonna be some bosses, different regions on release, and, you know, flexibility with your progression, skill tree, all of that kind of stuff. Now there are going to be puzzles and stuff like that to kind of break up the gameplay, because constant action in kind of tight arenas will get old over time. So it's kind of going for that more Skyrim philosophy. It's going for that Skyrim design, but much more focused and narrow in, you know, handcrafted areas, not a big open world. So, you know, you fight a bunch of enemies, you clear a dungeon, there's a puzzle to break up gameplay, and then you fight a boss, something like that, but much more emphasis on tactile, good combat and progression and danger. And that's what is missing in fantasy RPGs, and that's why this appeals to me and why I just wanted to highlight it today. So if we take a look at the Steam page here, I just thought we could have a look at what they say, because there's a lot of mystery around this game, and I do think that, you know, this is going to be a big hit, a kind of sleeper hit. And the Fatekeeper reviews, when they do come out, when people are actually releasing their Fatekeeper review and the early access coverage and all that stuff, you know, I think it's going to shock everyone, because, you know, from what I have seen, it does look like this is just a very satisfying game. It's not trying to be everything, it's not trying to appeal to everyone, it's not trying to chase trends and all this stuff. And sometimes that's what you need, just a game that actually nails the fundamentals, that harkens back to what, you know, dark fantasy should be. And that's what I really love, to be honest. And hopefully, if this game actually slaps, you know, there's going to be deep lore behind it, where we can actually ask some deeper questions, maybe around some philosophical themes and stuff like that. But it might not be going for any of that. It might be a very stripped back fantasy experience. But if the world itself is interesting, as it looks to be really interesting, the art style and everything, then this is definitely going to be, you know, a no-brainer. You know, it's a type of game that I really love. So it says, venture into a handcrafted world. It looks like you're going to be exploring the kind of aftermath of a fantasy society, which I find very interesting. Master the art of the sword and sorcery and forge your path with relics, spells, and choices. And the fact that they do mention choices here does get me excited. So, you know, who knows, there might be some morality implications. And maybe, you know, you can actually make choices with your rat companion, who knows. While Fatekeeper follows a focused narrative path, so it is a linear experience, the world invites you to explore. From ancient battlegrounds, vast underground caverns, and forests crumbling sanctuaries forgotten by time, each area rewards with hidden lore, forgotten relics, and random encounters. So it does sound like they are going to build this world, which does sound interesting. And you're not going to be going through this game with just one sword and, you know, that's going to be it. There's going to be a lot of loot in this game, which is something I find very satisfying in a game like this. So you can find different weapons, armor, artifacts to customize your loadout. and to change your playstyle that way. So Fatekeeper comes out very, very shortly, and I just thought I would make this quick video just talking about this because this is exactly up my alley, and if it nails with actually the themes and the lore, and it actually doesn't fumble early access and builds upon this, this could actually be the secret, you know, RPG kind of dark fantasy game we've been waiting for a very long time, and I'm honestly very excited about it. And the fact that it is kind of coming from an unknown developer actually makes me excited because, you know, that's where a lot of creativity and talent lies, is in this kind of more AA space. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. I do hope you enjoyed this early look at Fatekeeper. Let me know what you think about this game, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Have a great day, my wise ones. Peace out.